Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. If you have just found me, I am Anastasia Mili, a watercolor artist from Australia, and I'm glad you're here. I have recently finished this sketchbook and I decided to do a full tour of it instead of the usual flip-through videos, as I want to tell you about every sketch here, and I also want to talk about how I use my sketchbooks in my painting practice. So this book is by Arches, 100% cotton, cold press, 300 GSM or 140 pounds, so quite thick paper. I normally do not paint on Arches, I paint on Baohong, and it was fun to paint on this paper as watercolors do behave differently on cotton paper by different brands in my experience. I used both sides as this paper can handle a ton of water and paint. The only thing, the construction of this book is a bit funny, as they use the wrong side of the paper, the less textured side, for the front page, the first page, and the right side, the other side, is the one that's more textured. So if I wanted to use just one side, it would feel a bit strange to paint on the less textured side and let the proper cold press side go to waste. I'm not sure how common this issue is, maybe it was just a one-off. I got another one of these that I haven't started, and it is built properly with the right side being the first page. Now the funny thing about this blank book is that it has traveled to New Zealand and back, but it is still blank. Every time we go on a trip, I do bring my travel sketching kit with me, but I find it very hard to carve out the time to paint, as we are road trippers and we are constantly on the move. I do try to sketch while traveling, but my camera is still my main tool for capturing travel memories. I do dream of going away on a painting trip one day when I stay in the same spot for a few days, slow down, spend most of my time there sketching and painting, but on our family holidays, my camera helps me to capture the moments that later will inspire my paintings in the comfort of my studio. I normally have a few sketchbooks on the go, so it takes me a while to finish one. So this book only has 15 sheets, but it took me almost 8 months to fill it in. I often choose a simple and very familiar to me subject when I paint the first page. I am very confident in painting these quick and fun groups of trees, so this lets me fill in that perfect first page fast and without overthinking and move on, especially if I'm using a nicer sketchbook like this one, as sometimes I do feel a bit too precious about this beautiful cotton paper. Painting familiar subjects also lets me test how my paints act on this particular surface. So painting a familiar scene on the first page allows me to get to know the paper better. I quite like the combination of the warmer highlighted parts of the crowns here and these translucent, very light purple shadows here. So this was a nice and easy one to start the new sketchbook with. I do not really like painting directly from photos when it comes to creating larger landscapes, but I do enjoy using a photo reference when painting in my sketchbooks to study more challenging subjects like architecture or more detailed landscapes. And as the size is quite small, it is actually easier to figure out the tonal values and the largest shapes and to simplify them, and also to simplify the details for a looser, more expressive look. And if I do want to develop a larger painting based on that photo, I will already have a painted map of the tonal values and the large shapes that I can follow. And I will refer to the sketch rather than the photo when I'm painting that scene, because it really helps with loosening up and not becoming a slave to the photo. So with this one, I did paint it from a photo I took in Sydney. I find painting architectural subjects a bit tedious, but when it's a smaller size, it feels less tedious as I can be done with it quite fast. So this was a fun one to create. This is just this quick, simple tree again. It's a little bit too messy, to be honest, but this is what sketchbooks are for. They are for trying new things and seeing if they work or not. I enjoy trying out new color combinations in my sketchbooks. I think this one was a mix of green, gold and olive green. a warm green that I like placing next to Pearland Violet, and the warm orange of Quinacridone Sienna. And then I added a bit of lemon yellow for the highlights. So I tested this color combo here on this page, and then I created similar sketches based on this color scheme. I think there is a short video of a similar scene on my channel. So when playing with new color schemes that work, I get to know them better so I can use them later in my other paintings. So this is an atmospheric mountain scene. I love painting mountain scenes. With this one, I wanted to play with the way this paper handles blooms when you drop some water into a semi-dry wash. And I noticed that blooms are much easier to create on this paper rather than on my usual Baohong. I do love these textures here and the looser look they give to this landscape, and the way they help create wintry clouds, and also how they reflect the playful nature of watercolor. This texture is sometimes also called cauliflowers, which I think is not a very pretty name for such a lovely texture, so I prefer calling them blooms. This is another example of playing with similar textures, and I think it looks really nice here as well. And also I like the color scheme here, so I can use this sketch to inspire new work later based on the same colors. I like the way the more vibrant hue of the water is supported by the more muted color in the sky and the browns of the foreground. Another simple mountain landscape. I was just playing with different brush marks. I think I was testing some new brushes. Can't remember which ones though. This one is based on a photo I took while we were in New Zealand, while we were doing a boat tour in Milford Sound. I enjoyed playing with different shades of green here, both really cool and very warm. I have been really into painting with greens lately, can't get enough of them. So this sketch clearly made it so much easier for me to work on this landscape and also to make it more complex. With this sketch, I was testing out Indigo by Michael Harding. I think I had just got it, so I was trying to see how dark or how light it could go. I love painting monochromatic scenes, as I believe it is a great way to understand tonal values in a landscape. And also I use the blooming effect here. I put a drop of water at the edge of the sky when it was just beginning to dry, and then I guided it into the sky area, and then I used that bloom to suggest a tree crown. I love it when watercolors create some of the elements of the landscapes for me without any brush marks. This one is imagined, but it was loosely inspired by a photo I took in Tuscany years ago now. This is another subject that I very rarely paint large, but I do enjoy painting in sketchbooks. While I was painting this, I figured out how to create a very nice look for this potted plant, and this technique can be used for trees as well, by dropping some of the tree color into the wet background wash to create the soft edges first, and then once this wash was dry, I added more defined, darker brush marks on top and the splatters as well. And this combination of softness in the background and the hard edges on the top gives a more three-dimensional look to this potted plant here, and this can also be used for trees. I also like how easy it is to create brickwork with flat brushes, just one brush mark, and we have a brick. Just another simple tree. I think I was testing this color combination. This was Pearland Green. I'm not sure if I like Pearland Green next to the purple and the yellows. I think a warmer green would work better. So again, it was a good way to test this color palette on a smaller sketch before using it in a larger landscape. This one started very fast, very loose. I was actually trying to use up some of the paint samples I had on a dot card by Michael Harding. So I created this quite gestural background wash, the sky wash, and then I thought that a silhouetted something would look good against that fun sky. And I wanted to do something else than trees, so I went with a city skyline. I used some of my photos I took in Austria to inspire the shapes of these buildings, so this is quite a European looking scene. And when I look at this sketch, I actually want to paint more architectural scenes, and it was fun playing with different tonal values in the foreground to create atmospheric depth. I like this one, it's so loose, so playful. All these paint layers are quite transparent, so you can see the play between all these colors glowing from beneath. And I think this gives like a stained glass look to the scene, and it also reflects the beautiful translucency of watercolor paints and creates a lovely atmosphere. So I'm always trying to improve my water painting techniques, and I don't think I'm succeeding, to be honest. I am improving though, I think, which is what's important. Despite the fact that I do live by the ocean and I am able to observe the water on a regular basis, I find painting it quite challenging. I feel I can never capture the movement of the waves, but I'll keep trying. This one was painted with just Tundra Violet by Schminka from their super granulating range. Again, a very simple, very quick landscape. Sometimes when I feel like painting, but I don't know what to paint, I just paint something really fast, very simple. And the main thing is that I painted that day. It doesn't matter if it was only a small sketch that took me 10 minutes. I like this color because it's one tube of paint, but there are two different contrasting pigments in it, which are ultramarine blue and brown oxide. So you can have this play between the warm and the cool tones. And I love using just this one color in a painting, as it is quite capable of creating completed paintings because it already has both the warm and the cool tones, plus it granulates, so it gives you texture. And it can also go quite dark, so you can build up strong tonal value contrast in a scene. I find that it's best used wet on wet, as this color needs a lot of water for the pigments to split and to create this contrast between the blue and the light brown. Another group of trees. I don't think I'll ever tire of creating these in watercolor. They're great for testing color schemes or new color mixes. I think it was green gold mixed with quinacridone gold plus perylene violet and some quinacridone sienna here. My favorite part about this sketch is this bloom edge that creates this fuzzy soft outline of this small tree. This was another very quick sketch that probably took me less than 10 minutes. I sometimes try to paint with colors that I buy and don't use much, and this one is desert green, which is another super granulating paint from Schminka's super granulating range. Not sure I'm quite a big fan of it. I can't say I like the combination of red and the cool green in it. I don't know what it would be best for in terms of what subject it would work well for. But again, it was a fun quick sketch, and I love the variety of edges here, both the soft and the more defined ones. And I also love the variety of brush marks in the trees. I love this page. I love the contrast of the sharp borders next to all the soft edges in the sketch on this page. I think this combination creates a very nice sketchbook spread. In this sketch, I love the way the paint from the sky escaped into the foreground and created this lovely glow. I did keep the horizon dry, but then I allowed one tiny area where the sky wash and the foreground wash could connect. Otherwise, it would be quite a plain looking scene, but this little glowing area makes a huge difference. And just a gum tree, I love painting them. I love all the cool and the warm greens and all the rich brown colors of the Australian bush. I like this very vibrant color scheme. Plus, I like the way the splatters of phthalo blue created this lovely effect in the dark background. I think they make the background look expressive and bring more light into it, while still keeping it soft and moody. We have a few sets of complementary colors. Complementary colors are the ones that are opposite to each other on the color wheel. So the cool blue plays with the orange, the yellows create a nice contrast again, the purples, and then the reds are opposite to the warm greens on the color wheel, so they also add to the overall color contrast. And we also have the neutrals and the browns here in the trees, and I think they ground this very vibrant color scheme very nicely. Just a boat. I used phthalo blue here again to add reflected lights to the shadows. When I paint in sketchbooks, I often use hints of the same color on both pages, like phthalo blue here and here, so the sketches look connected to each other, even if the subjects are very different. I love this spread. I think it's my favorite one in the whole book. So this one was inspired by a photo, but I painted it not directly from a photo, but rather a sketch from another sketchbook. So this is a similar scene in terms of the composition, but I swapped the trees, and I created these trees from imagination, whereas these trees were painted from my photo I took in Thredbo in the Snowy Mountains in New South Wales. And this is what I'm talking about. When it comes to painting from photos in your sketchbooks, once you create a sketch based on a photo in your sketchbook, later you can use that sketch to develop new work that is very different from the photo. And it gives you enough practice to actually start creating different landscapes based on the same photo, but not looking like that photo. So you can use a single sketch to create completely different looking landscapes. And this sketch was painted from a photo I took on Bruny Island in Tasmania. I remember how captivated I was by the late afternoon light hitting the trees. I love this photo and I love the memory, and I wanted to paint it for a very long time, but I found it a bit too intimidating as the scene is quite complex. But then it all clicked all of a sudden, and I felt I knew how to approach it, because it was all about creating these deep enough darks around the tree trunks to make them pop. And I was actually quite surprised that I had a bit of patience to add all these little details. It felt quite meditative to create all these tiny brush marks and build up the rich textures of the Aussie bush. I love looking at this sketch. It takes me right back to that moment when I was walking this path through the bush along the water near the house we were staying on Bruny Island. It was so incredibly quiet, so peaceful, and the winter sunlight was just lovely. This is another Milford Sound sketch. That place, honestly, was such a highlight of our trip. The weather is often rainy. We were there in spring, so lots of rain, but we were very lucky on the day because we did get the rain, so we had lots of waterfalls. And it was also very windy, which cleared the sky for a bit when we were coming back to the marina, and this is one of those moments. So we got some beautiful sunshine too. It was all very dramatic, very spectacular, unforgettable, so much inspiration. And so I used one of the photos I took from the boat for this sketch. I like these little dark blooms, and that's the texture that was created by adding droplets of water into the wash when it was starting to dry. And without this texture, this would have been a very dark and quite unattractive shape. But by adding this texture, it made it much more exciting to look at. And at the same time, it's not taking away the attention from my focal point. And this sketch was inspired by the photos I took as we were walking back to the car after we finished our boat tour through this beautiful, very lush rainforest. I love all the complex greens in this sketch, and I added these touches of purple. I think it was Carbazole Violet. It's a transparent color, and it offsets the greens and makes them stand out even more. And I like this sketch next to the one from the boat tour, as this sketchbook spread tells a story of our morning there. Love this spread. I used masking tape to separate these sketches. I like the neat framing it creates. All these are imagined landscapes, so no photos were used for painting them. The challenge when you create these spreads is to make sure everyone is unique, but at the same time they look nice and connected despite different compositions and subjects. So for that, I try using a similar color scheme in each sketch, but I use the colors in different proportions. Like there is a lot of blue here, but just hints of it here. I also used granulating colors in every sketch. This created a connection through texture, and I also used Potter's Pink, which granulates heavily in every scene, maybe just a touch of it here in the foreground, which also helped with color harmony. I like the light here on this mountain. And we're getting closer to the end of the book. I developed this sketch from a doodle I made in my notebook. I like this one a lot, so I decided to try and develop it into a larger sketch. I love accents of lavender here. I think they bring so much light to the scene. You might have seen videos on my channel with scenes very similar to this one. I figured out how to do this silver lining and the glowing light effect in the sky. And I love the process so much that I still can't stop painting the same scene over and over again, just because of how relatively easy it is to create this beautiful light effect. So I already have quite a few landscapes using the same effects. This one was a short, and this one was the YouTube video. And I'm also working on a bigger painting using the same technique. I'm still not sure how to balance this composition, so I'm still figuring it out. It's quite unfinished, I reckon, so I'll just let this painting rest on my desk until it comes to me. And we are on the last page. Just finished it the other day. I decided to make it quite simple. Again, pretty much the same as with the very simple sketch for the first page. So I could just finish this sketchbook and move on to the next one. So it's just a simple summary scene painted wet on wet. I love the delicate washes here, and I really like the soft sky and the edge of this cloud here. I had a great experience painting in this sketchbook. I love the more panoramic format, as it works beautifully for landscapes. It is going to be a great source of inspiration for me for creating new work based on these. When I'm feeling stuck creatively, I often refer to my sketchbooks to find a sketch to develop into a larger scene or to spark a new idea. And I'm going to start my other one soon, the blank one that has been to New Zealand and back. And if I decide to buy more of these, I will probably go to an art supply store rather than buying it online like I did with these two, just to make sure it is constructed properly with the right side being the first page. But otherwise, no complaints. The paper is great, as it is almost always the case with arches. To sum it up, my sketchbook practice allows me to explore new or more complex subjects, test new techniques, create sketches from photos that can later become the foundation for larger work. And I love that my sketchbooks document my skill level at that particular time, so I make sure I always date every sketch, so they become a kind of a record, a diary of my creative practice over the months it takes to fill them. And it's fascinating to look back at my old sketchbooks and see these snapshots of my watercolor journey. As always, if you have any questions, ask me in the comments. Thank you for watching and happy painting!